Welcome to Onslow County Today. I'm your host, Lisa Whitman-Grice, and once again, you can see we are on the road. We are here today at Public Beach Access number 2 because it is summertime and we are ready for it. Of course, when it's summertime, that also means that we want to make sure that our families who are visiting here are happy and healthy and being as safe as possible. So today we're going to visit with a lot of guests who are going to share with you some summer fun safety tips. As always, we are so glad to have you here for Onslow County Today. Welcome back to Onslow County Today, and joining us is a new guest, Michael Singleton. Michael, we're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Lisa, for allowing me to come out and talk with you today.
Now, Michael, we'd love for you to tell our audience, what is your exact title with Onslow County?
With Onslow County, I am what's called an environmental health program specialist.
Okay.
I work with the Environmental Health Division with the Health Department.
Okay.
In the Environmental Health Services section.
All right. You know, one of the things we want to convey with this edition of Onslow County Today is summer safety. And you all specialize in that, especially when it comes to things like what we eat and where we eat. And sometimes in the summertime, it's not a matter of going out to eat, but it's about taking food with us and eating out, really eating out on picnics. And so we want to talk about several things today. We want to talk about food safety, the do's and don'ts. We certainly want to talk about how we want to pack that food, what we want to be mindful of. And then we're going to switch gears a little bit in our conversation and talk about pool safety and poolside safety. So the first thing we want to talk about first and foremost is food safety, which you all specialize in there at Environmental Health. What sort of things do we want to remember as we're preparing to go on a picnic this summer?
Well, probably one of the first things that we want to think about is how we're going to pack our food.
Okay.
Not just with ice or what we're going to bring, but how we're going to situate that in our cooler.
Okay.
And what we're going to use to keep it cold.
All right. So first things first, I brought my really cute picnic basket. Maybe not storing my deviled eggs in my picnic basket.
These are really great. They have a nostalgia value, but they're really not the best option if you're looking for food safety during the summertime.
So we'll keep this for aesthetics and cute, and this is for safety.
I would use a cooler such as this.
Okay.
It's more insulated.
All right.
And it'll hold the food longer at a safer temperature.
All right, so when we're talking about temperatures, I don't need to, get out a thermometer like you all do when you do inspections, but we do want to be mindful of those levels, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We don't expect everyone to carry a thermometer in their back pocket, but we do want you to be mindful of how you store your food.
Okay.
A cooler like this can probably go for several hours just on normal ice.
Okay.
But if you anticipate that you're going to be out longer or you have a long travel time, you can get dry ice.
Okay, all right.
Which will allow you to have a colder temperature for a longer time.
All right, so we want to think about the length of time it's going to be in the cooler as well.
Definitely.
And so traditional ice, which we can pack, or even the cold packs that you can purchase, those will suffice as well?
Yes, ma'am. If you don't have access to a vending machine for ice or your home ice maker, you can use moldable ice packs. Any of those are perfectly acceptable.
All right, so think about dry ice though for those long extended periods.
Yes.
How about what we put in here? So I'm going to go to our local park, and I'm going to maybe grill out, but I've also got my potato salad ready, and I've got my lemonade, and I've got my canned drinks. Everything in here at the same time?
No, you want to try to have separate coolers if you can.
Okay.
What type of item would you want to grill? Are we looking at raw?
Hamburgers,
okay.
absolutely.
Hamburgers you would want to put on the bottom of your cooler.
Okay.
In a separate, tight container. That way, if they leak or you should have the cooler tip over, you're not going to have that risk of raw product coming in contact with anything else that you could just open and eat right away.
So we want to avoid any cross-contamination.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And when you look at having ice in here, you want to make sure that the ice that you use to keep your food cold is not used for your drinks.
Okay.
Because if you were to have a spill or an accident, you don't want to have that contaminated ice in your drink.
All right, so foods that still need preparing, let's keep them in a separate container, separate cooler preferably, but definitely make sure that they're well packed, tight, and that they're on the bottom. Is that because that's the coldest space for it?
It's because if you had a hamburger on top and you had lettuce or tomato in the middle and then you had cans on the bottom, if the burger were to leak, then you have potential contamination there with that lettuce and tomatoes. So if you put it on the bottom, you'll have a less likely chance of introducing that.
All right, so we've talked a little bit about what kind of ice. We've talked about what type of cooler and container, keeping things separate. What about, we've had our picnic, we've had a great time, everything's out on the picnic table like we have. It's time to pack things up and head for home. What are the possibilities that I could take that stuff home, or do I need to maybe dispose of the food that we've had?
That's a great question. When we look at keeping food product, from a commercial standpoint, we usually recommend that our restaurants not keep anything past a 4-hour window if it's going to be out of refrigeration. But your home-based operations, what you'll most likely run into is if you have a commercially prepared product, commercial potato salad or coleslaw, those are designed to give you a little bit more of a cushion, and you could probably keep that outside of a 4-hour window, but I would definitely err on the side of caution. If it has been out of your cooler for more than 4 hours, I probably wouldn't keep it.
So let's not pack it back up. As frugal as I want to be, I'd rather be more concerned about my family's safety.
Correct. Definitely look out for your family. Those few dollars that you spend on that potato salad is not worth the risk.
All right, so maybe don't want to take things home or repack it up, especially since it's back out. What about post-event? So, time to take the cooler home. How do you recommend we clean them to make sure that when I use it next time, it's sanitized?
What you can do is you can make a really basic sanitizing solution.
Okay.
You could use about a tablespoon of Clorox to a 1-quart spray bottle that you can buy at any hardware or variety store, and that'll give you what's referred to at about a 50 part per million strength for bleach. And that'll be more than enough to sanitize your cooler. It's also relatively safe if it were to remain dry or you were to need to use the cooler again fairly quickly.
All right, make sure it's clean. Make sure we're using 2 different kinds of ice, dry ice, traditional ice. Don't want to reuse the ice that has been keeping things cold. Have a separate container for that. Keep our products that need to be prepared separate, and then be mindful of that window. When in doubt, though, what do we need to do?
We need to throw it out.
When in doubt, if there's any question. That is great and safe advice for us as we're all heading out to the parks, heading to the beach for our picnics. And sometimes, Michael, we just want to hang out poolside. And that falls under your auspices as well. You are responsible, your umbrella, if you will, in terms of not water safety for the swimmer's sake. You're not a lifeguard.
No, we're not a lifeguard.
But your job is to make sure that the water in public pools and the whole surroundings are safe for us. Talk about your responsibilities, and I'm sure as it's getting so beautiful outside, business is picking up for you all.
Oh, yes it is. We try to get every public swimming pool open and operational as quickly as possible.
Okay.
If you see a normal swimming pool, they're seasonal.
All right.
They typically operate from the middle of May until October. And as part of our process, we're responsible for doing a pre-opening inspection for that permit, which includes safety equipment, water quality, facilities in terms of the pool deck and the interior of the pool, and appurtenances such as fences and emergency telephones.
So let's begin first with the emergency equipment. What are the requirements for pools? And when we say public pools, we're talking about what type of facilities first?
When we look at public swimming pools, it's anywhere that is accessible to the general public. These can include condominiums, country club pools, swim spas, for exercise centers or activity centers, and any other open hotel style pool that you may have more than one family that has access to that at any given time.
Okay, so not private pools in somebody's backyard, but all of those other membership pools, country club
Correct.
pools, anything like that, you all are responsible for overseeing. And your first priority in terms of safety is the security. Talk a little bit about what's required there.
When we come up to a swimming pool, the first thing we look for is the fence in good repair? Is it in good shape? There's a minimum height requirement for that fencing. It should be at least 48 inches tall,
Okay.
with a latch at 54 inches. The gates are designed to open away from the pool so that if a child were to run toward it, they could not open the gate and get through if the latch were to not be secure.
Okay.
If the fence is intact, we move inside. We look for emergency telephones, that the signage is properly located and that it is visible within 75 feet of the pool. We also have life-saving equipment that is available for those individuals that use the pool. It includes a Coast Guard approved ring buoy with either a 50-foot length of rope attached or 1.5 times the width of the pool, whichever is
Very
smaller.
good. Okay.
And then a body hook, non-collapsible, so that if there were to be a bather trapped on the bottom of the pool or disabled at the bottom of the pool, you can raise them from the pool.
Very good. So, you know, as someone who might be on vacation, they want to, when they go into that pool area, there may not be a lifeguard. They want to kind of peruse that area and make sure they see those things as well, don't they?
We definitely want to make sure that you have an awareness of where you are on that property, especially if it's somewhere that you haven't vacationed to before, or if it's somewhere you haven't been in a while. Things do change. They may make movements for where their safety equipment is located, but that's great advice to take just a 1 or 2 minute turn around the pool. Make sure you can locate where your exits are, where your emergency equipment is located, and where that emergency phone is. And I want to stress that emergency phone. Everyone has a cell phone in their pocket now, and that is going to be the first thing most people reach for. But when you have that phone call and they call you back, they don't see the address that is where you are calling from.
Very
They may
good.
have a relative location. That pool phone is tied to that swimming pool. It has the phone number, it has the address, and it allows you to convey that information quickly.
Very good. Now then, you want to look at the actual structure itself. And when you and I were talking earlier, I was a little surprised that you all look at this, but you actually look at the pool features.
We do. We look at how deep is that seat that's inside the pool itself for a sun shelf. We look at the deck of the pool, make sure that it doesn't have any ledges, that it's smooth, and that you're not going to have any trip hazards. We also make sure that deck furniture is adequately spaced away from the edge of the pool.
Very good. Okay.
And we look in the pool itself to make sure that the drains are intact, that they're not loose. We make sure that the pool profile has no cracks or damage. We look at the side of the pool to make sure all signage is properly
Very good.
spaced in there.
And last but not least, we're secure. The structure is all intact and good. And then the water itself, that thing that's so refreshing in the summertime, we want to make sure stays in the best possible quality. What are you looking for?
We typically look for two parameters when we're looking for water quality. We'll look for available chlorine residual, and we look for pH of the water.
Okay.
On a swimming pool in North Carolina, the minimum chlorine requirement is 1 part per million, which doesn't sound like a lot, but on the size of a swimming pool, it's quite a bit. And then we look for anywhere of a pH between 7.2 and 7.8,
Okay.
which is relatively neutral.
Now, you all do this as pools are getting ready to open up. Do you go back and do periodic inspections throughout the summer, or do you rely on reports from the actual businesses that operate them?
Every swimming pool that's public is required to have a certified pool operator that conducts the daily operations of that swimming pool. As part of their certification, they are supposed to take those readings every single day.
Okay.
And when we do our permitting, we make sure that those logs are being kept. And depending on the type of pool, if it's seasonal, we will make a second visit. If it's a year-round pool, we may make a night visit if they allow after-hours swimming. So we do not permit and leave. We do make an additional visit if time allows.
Well, excellent. Well, Michael, you have given us some great advice, but more importantly, you've given us a lot of peace of mind that you have done all of that due diligence, making sure that where we swim is safe, and then making sure that our families are going to have the most possible fun this summer, but safe fun. So, Michael Singleton, thank you. If people have more questions, of course, can you direct them to Environmental Health's website just so that we can know where you are and a little bit more about you all?
Sure. If you have any questions concerning our programs or anything we've talked about today, you can reach our main line. It's 910-938-5851. That'll put you with our front desk ladies. You can also find us on the web through onslowcountync.gov and look for Environmental Health. If you would like to get any information, pamphlets and things, those are all posted on our webpage.
Excellent. Well, Michael Singleton, thank you so much, and we look forward to visiting with you again.
Thank you, Lisa. I look forward to it as well.
Welcome back to Onslow County Today, and joining us is one of our favorite friends, Jennifer Montefort from Onslow County Animal Services. Jennifer, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, this is all about our summer safety show, and we want to keep our furry family members just as safe as any of our family members. So we always like to invite you this time of year to talk about things we need to be mindful of when it comes to our pets. We're going to talk about certainly what happens in the summertime with our pets, protecting from the heat, food, insect, pest management issues, and just some general common sense things we all want to keep in mind. So first things first, it's hot, Jennifer. It's already really warm. What do we want to think about when it comes to our furry family members?
So the heat started early. I remember I had my air conditioning on in January this year. But we definitely want to be mindful of our animals out in the heat. So exercising in the early morning and evening, keeping them out of, long periods of time of heat, making sure when they are outdoors they have access to shade, shelter, fresh water at all times, and that we're monitoring their behavior. So be aware of if they're suffering from excessive heat, bring them inside. Keep them out of the sun.
Now, the other thing is we're out exercising in the early morning, and we're going to the beach or we're going to the park. What about the little pads of their feet?
Yes. So you definitely want to be mindful of hot surfaces.
Okay.
The pads on their feet are very sensitive and can burn very easily.
Okay.
So you always want to check out those surfaces before taking your pet out. So asphalt, sand at the beach. You want to place the back of your hand on that surface, and if it burns within 3 to 5 seconds, then that's too hot for your pet. That's not something you want to expose them to.
All right, heat first. Then what about, it's summertime. We are all out and about with our pets, my Lily loves to be outside. So what about our neighbors and everybody's out and about? What do we need to be thinking about then?
So, of course, we want our pets with us. They are family. But we have to be responsible pet owners, and we have to be responsible citizens. So, for pet owners, we want them to make sure that they're aware of their pet's limits. So if you're taking your animal out to a large crowd, to an area where there are a lot of other strange animals, know your pet's limits and don't expose them to a stressful situation. Everyone is responsible for preventing bites, including pet owners and the public. So just being aware is a huge part of preventing those things.
All righty. And we are out and about, so I've got some errands to run. What about pets in cars? What do we want to think about then?
We never want to leave pets in a hot car for any period of time, windows down or not. Even in mild temperatures, it's 70 degrees, a car can heat up within minutes to temperatures of 100 degrees or over. This is a life-threatening situation, and we don't want to put our pets at risk, just because we don't want to leave them at home for a small errand. Keep them at home, keep them safe, keep them out of the heat.
Now, for long trips, though, family trips, we're going on vacation, we take our pets with us. What do we want to have available to us in our vehicles?
Well, you want to always be prepared for whatever's going to come your way. You know, a lot of people take vacations, and if they include their pets on that, that's terrific. So you want to pack for your pet as well as your family. So toys, treats, a crate, something to keep them safe in the car. Make sure that they always have access to water, rest stops. And you know, you just want to make sure that they're safe on the trip as well. We want to keep them in mind.
All righty. And then finally, we've got a lot of company, it's celebrations, we've got holidays coming up, certainly 4th of July, and that can unsettle our pets. What do we think about there?
Yeah, it's the time for family gatherings, parties, all that fun, and we tend to want to include our pets in that as well. But a lot of new people coming and going can be stressful for our animals. So we want to make sure if we have guests to the home that we make them aware of our pets' needs, make sure doors are getting closed tightly, gates are being locked, you know, so our pets don't go missing during that time. Also, we want to make sure that our pets have a space to escape to, so a safe space, a crate, a room of their own, so that they can get out of that stressful situation if necessary.
Okay, and you know, we spoke with Michael Singletary from the health department about keeping our food safe, and we are picnicking, and we've got all kinds of, you know, family gatherings and food everywhere. There are certain things that we need to make sure stay away from our furry family members when we're having those picnics.
Yes, it's tempting to pass a treat, what we think is a treat, on to our furry family members, but you want to keep them away from people food. So especially toxic foods, raisins, grapes, avocados, things that are normally around during a picnic. You want to keep them away from that, as well as bones, fatty foods that can cause stomach upset. So we don't want them getting sick. There are lots of great alternatives, ice cream treats, you know, natural treats that you can make for your dog. That on the internet to keep them safe and not be passing along human foods for them.
All right. And last but not least, you know, we really didn't, you mentioned having your air conditioning on in January. We really didn't have very much extreme weather this winter. It wasn't particularly cold. So we know that insects are going to be really tough this spring and summer. So mosquitoes and certainly ticks and yellow flies, things of that nature. What do we need to be mindful of with our pets in terms of vaccinations or protecting them from parasitic issues?
So we always want to make sure their vaccines are up to date, especially our rabies vaccinations. It's mandated by North Carolina law that they have to be rabies vaccinated. So always check on that's up to date and they're wearing their tag. As far as parasite control, fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, we want our pets to be protected from all of those. So setting up an appointment with our vet, getting them on flea and tick prevention, as well as heartworm prevention. Heartworms are spread by mosquitoes and are very prevalent in this area and can be life-threatening. So that's something we always want to have our animals protected from, but it's always good in the start of the season to make sure that's all taken care of.
Well, again, we want a fun summer, and being outside and you know, tossing a frisbee and playing with our pets is always a lot of fun, but we want to take all these precautions that you've talked about with us today to heart. Again, you all always have great events. You have great partners in the community. How do we find out more about everything that you're doing at Onslow County Animal Services?
So we have a great Facebook page which puts out a lot of information on events and adoptions, volunteer program, foster programming. And that's Onslow County Animal Services on Facebook.
Okay.
We have a great website as well, FAQs, and we'll be happy to answer any phone calls and questions that you have. So our phone number is 910-455-0182, and our website is onslowcountync.gov/animal services.
Well, Jennifer Montefort, thank you. Thank you for always bringing us great advice, and we look forward to visiting with you next time.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Onslow County Today, and joining us is Catherine Mameli, who is the Public Communication Specialist with the Onslow County Health Department. Catherine, we're glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Catherine, this is our summer safety show, and we're talking about all types of safety tips for our citizens. And I doubt that there are very few departments that are more concerned with public safety than you all at the Onslow County Health Department, keeping us all healthy and happy, if you will. And so we wanted to talk about some things that you all are kind of information you're sharing. You do these great public bulletin boards, things about nutrition and family safety. So let's talk about some things we all need to be mindful of. And the first thing I think of when we're out here and it's such a beautiful day is the sun.
Yes, ma'am.
So what are you advising our citizens to do about sun protection?
Well, we want to always make sure, especially with the little kids that are outdoors now, SPF 50 plus, definitely for that fair skin. Everybody needs to have their protection on because, as we know, every time that we get outside, we're by the water, we're by the coast. The minute that we walk outside, we're exposed. And as we all know, later, as we get older, things start to happen, and
need to be aware.
yes, we need to be aware.
And it's sometimes really kind of casual sun exposure. It's not
Right.
that, we're out there like we did back in the 70s and 80s, which is just
Oil.
basically on a rotisserie as you cooked us. But really always, even just being out, we need to have our sunscreen on
You
when we're
and
just
I,
out.
Yeah. I should've brought my
Inconsequential.
sunscreen with me.
Well, I've got some on, so got to be careful. So, you all deal with so many children, and the type of sunscreen that we use for our children is also really particular, isn't it?
Yes, we want to use hypoallergenic always. It's best to, like I said, 50 plus. Apply it at least a half an hour before we get in the water, and then right after we get out of the water, especially if we're at the beach, salt water, the sand, all that's going to, really, it's abrasive. So you want to make sure keep reapplying multiple times because that baby's skin is so fine and fair, and we want to protect it.
Okay, so sunscreen protection. What other tips are you all offering?
Wide brimmed hats.
Okay.
We want to do that, make sure that we're keeping the sun off. We want to definitely, if we are playing at the pool and we don't know how to swim, or if we're at the beach, we want to make sure that we have life jackets on, or mom and dad are really keeping a close eye. I'm sure all of us are well aware we've had some drownings lately in the area, so riptides right now are really prevalent, so we really want to make sure that we're watching for the
that kind of V and then those cross in the ocean.
Yes.
And sometimes you really, unless you're super familiar with the ocean, you're not even always aware that has changed. So oftentimes, we can post flags. Just watch the weather in the morning because they're really great about letting us know as well.
Right. So definitely, like Lisa, you said, look for those flags. If there's a red flag, don't go in the water, even if it's yellow.
Okay.
So yeah, watch for flags, watch for what the lifeguard's doing, pay attention, stay close, just watch the kiddos really closely.
Okay, so sun safety, water safety. We talked to Michael Singleton from your office about food safety. And then what about general things like hydration and nutrition in the summertime?
Definitely lots of water. Want to keep hydrated by drinking lots and lots of water, even when you're outside and you're playing and you don't realize that you might be getting dehydrated. You want to make sure you're drinking lots of water, not so much, sodas, things like that. We want to just stick with water if we can.
And you all are great about reminding me that I need to get out and exercise more, but maybe not at noon.
Definitely not at noon. So we want to do early morning, 7, 8, 9-ish.
Okay.
Okay. Or maybe my favorite time personally is after work around 6 when the sun is starting to go down. It's getting cooler out. Those are the best times to get out and get some activity.
All right. And we spoke with Jennifer Montefort from Onslow County Animal Services about insect protection for our pets. But it's so vital for us as well. And you all help monitor things like triple E or equine encephalitis, and monitoring mosquitoes. So what do we want to be thinking about when it comes to insect protection, insect bite protection?
This year is supposed to be a particularly bad year for Lyme disease, so we definitely want to make sure that we're using bug protection with DEET in it. Keep the kids, everybody in the family covered with bug protection that's got the DEET in it. That's what specifically keeps those bad guys away. Mosquitoes, ticks, all the other...
The bitey guys.
That like to get in there and get the blood and also spread their germs.
All right.
So definitely make sure that you keep them protected with that.
So sun protection, water safety, being mindful of our hydration levels, being protected against heat exhaustion and a heat stroke certainly, and then insect protection. Anything else the Onslow County Health Department wants us to be thinking about this summer when it comes to safety or just our health and happiness here in the county?
Okay, if they're at the playground, what we want to be thinking about is safety. We've had a few incidents about, falling off the swings, off the slides, off the monkey bars. So we want to make sure that we're watching at all times, making sure that they've got somebody to catch them if they're about to fall. We don't want them to have a TBI, traumatic brain injury, a concussion. If there's any kind of rusty material or any kind of rusty metal that they might get poked with, they might get scraped with, tetanus. So make sure that you've got all of your immunizations up to date, you've got your tetanus shot. If they do get poked or prodded with something that's got rust in it, we suggest that you see the pediatrician or come in, see us. We have a child health nurse supervisor that'd be happy to take a look at it and say, yep, think that we probably need to get you down to immunizations and get you a tetanus shot.
Very good. Well, you all do a wonderful job. Not only have you come out here to share all this great information, your Facebook is fantastic. Your bulletin boards are awesome to be looking for those in the libraries and other locations. And in general, you all are just focused on making sure that everybody in Onslow County is their happiest and their healthiest. And we thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
Welcome back to Onslow County Today, and joining us now is Captain Larry Nobles with the Onslow County Sheriff's Department. Captain Nobles, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa.
We want to talk about a couple of things today. This is our annual summer safety show, and certainly we want to talk about traffic safety and driving safety tips, and then we want to talk about vacation safety. So first and foremost, we want to talk certainly about driving safety. Kids are out of school, our young adults, our teenagers are out, they're ready to go to the beach. What are some really straightforward points that we all need to be mindful of?
Well, first off, the public really needs to be aware that with school getting out, there's going to be kids running around neighborhoods. They need to reduce their speed when traveling through neighborhoods and keep an eye out for kids. And when they're on the roadways, it would be their best interest to reduce their speeds and to increase their following distances to other vehicles. And texting, we're finding out that a lot more people are texting and looking at their phones when they're driving, which we know from statistics and from studies that when you're paying attention to your phone, you're distracted, which is careless and reckless driving in the state of North Carolina and most states as well. And we've also found out that when you're texting and driving, to look at a simple text, if you're traveling 55 miles per hour, you've traveled the length of a football field while looking at that text and responding back to it. So we want to encourage drivers to stop texting, to reduce their speeds, and to increase their following distances. And also they need to understand that during the summer months there's a lot more construction on the roadways, and they need to be mindful of those construction zones.
Okay, so slow down.
Yes, ma'am.
Pay attention.
Absolutely.
Be mindful and stay off your phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Stay
Absolutely.
off your phone.
We worry that, with teenagers, they're just learning driving. I've got a 16-year-old son that's driving. It scares me to think that he's going to be riding around looking at his phone, going to the beach, and not paying attention to his surroundings. And I stress to him every day that he needs to be mindful of that.
Okay, so all of those things, slow down, pay attention, be mindful, and also make sure your vehicle's in good condition as well, I imagine.
Yes, ma'am. The best thing to do is check your tire pressure, make sure your tire pressures are accurate, because if not, you may end up having a tire go flat while you're driving down the road, and if you're not an experienced driver, it could cause you to crash your vehicle.
Right, right.
Your windshield washer fluid, make sure that it's full. You know, especially if you're driving long distances, you may go through the mountains, you know, go through the beach, and you get sand and dirt on your windshields, and you might need to wash it off. And if you don't have your windshield washer fluid full, then you can't clean your windshield properly, and it obstructs your vision.
Very good. And then certainly coolant, things like that, making sure our vehicles don't overheat, especially days like today.
Absolutely. If your vehicle is not full of coolant properly, then if you may end up breaking down on the side of the road and overheating. And if you're driving through an area, especially like today where it's 96, 97 degrees, you could get overheated inside the vehicle. Your family could get overheated. If you have pets, they could get overheated. So it's best to take care of your vehicle, especially if you're going to be going on a long trip.
All right. And you mentioned that, you know, we all think, I'm just going to run in the store, I'm just running in the bank for just a second. The kids will be fine. You know, I'll be right back. I'm in and out. But what do we know, and what do we tell folks about our children left in vehicles?
Well, for one, it's not safe for kids to be left in the vehicle. If you leave it running, that means someone could come in and jump in your vehicle, drive off with your kids in the vehicle, and we absolutely don't want that. And if you leave your kids in a vehicle with it not running, then you've got to worry about them getting overheated inside the vehicle. And we know that criminals, they look for things like that. They see a vehicle running, they don't pay attention to people in it. They jump in it and grab it and go. You know, so then you're worried about you've got your vehicle gone, you got your family gone. It's just not safe practice.
All right, very good. Now, I do want to take vacation this summer. I'm ready. We've all had a long time of it this last about 8 months, and I think we're all ready for a little bit of downtime and fun time. But there are things that we need to remember. We leave town, we leave our home. And what do we need to do to secure our homes while we're out and about?
Well, make sure that your house is locked. Do not leave your doors unlocked. Make sure your windows are locked. Change your pattern. If you leave a certain light on, change it to another light. That way it looks like someone's always home. Let your family, if you have family in town, let them know you're going out of town so they can keep a check of your house. Don't post on social media such as Facebook that I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks in Tahiti, and I'm going to enjoy my vacation.
Right.
Because that lets people know on social media that you're out of town.
The house is wide open.
Bad people have social media as well.
Right. Yes,
and
sir.
I suggest, and the sheriff's office suggests, to contact the post office, stop your mail from being delivered, so that way people driving by, they can't check your mailbox and know that you're out of town because your mail has not been checked for several days. The Onslow County Sheriff's Office also offers a house check. We have a house check program. If you're going to be out of town, you can contact us or come by the sheriff's office, fill out a card letting us know that you'll be out of town, and we can check your house in between calls and make sure that it's secure. The only thing that we ask is that you put your contact information on there, and emergency contact if there is any. That way we can contact them and let them know, hey, there's something out of place at your house. Is this normal?
That's a great idea. I appreciate you sharing that. So we've got our vehicles safe. We have our homes safe. We want to keep law enforcement and other emergency service providers safe as well, because they're taking care of us. And sometimes when we're traveling down the road, we might see a traffic stop, or we might see an emergency vehicle coming down the roadway. What are some reminders there?
For one, reduce speed.
Okay.
And the move over law. If you see EMS, fire, law enforcement, a wrecker, fire truck on the side of the road, slow down, change lanes, get over to the far left lane, or far right, depending on which lane of travel they're in, and pay attention to the car in front of you. Don't look over at the EMS vehicle or fire or law enforcement, because that's going to distract you and you're not going to see the car stopping in front of you. but reduce your speed, move over, and pay attention to the vehicles in front of you.
Well, Captain Nobles, these are all fantastic tips. I know that you all have a terrific website where you've got a lot of good information posted. But also you all provide tours at the Sheriff's Department and provide information for groups. What is the main number at the Sheriff's Office if we have questions about this or anything else that you all offer?
They can call 910-455-3113, and they can also reach out to the Sheriff's Office through our Facebook webpage.
Okay.
And we look at that every day.
Fantastic. Well, Captain Nobles, thank you. Thank you for coming out on such a warm day, but thank you for keeping us safe and protecting the citizens of Onslow County.
Thank you, Lisa.
Welcome back to Onslow County today, and you can see we are not in our typical setting. We are joined with David Grovedahl with Onslow County EMS, and thank you for inviting us in, if you will.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful spring day. Summer's right around the corner, so we're happy to have you.
Well, you know, we've been talking about this for a couple of months now, to have this opportunity to talk with you about your team and what they do here at EMS, but also to talk with you about some real important safety tips for our viewers. So the first thing we want to talk about is you, Mr. Grovedahl. Tell us a little bit about you. How long have you been with Onslow County, and what is your official, and I say title, but I think you have about 3 titles. So what is your official title with Onslow County?
Sure. I'm Dave Grovedahl. I'm the EMS division head for Onslow County EMS. I've been a paramedic for 20 years.
Wow, congratulations.
And I've been with Onslow County just a little over 2 years now.
Well, congratulations on that wonderful and auspicious anniversary, 20 years of protecting people in our community, and 2 years here in our community, correct?
Yes.
Well, we are glad to have you, sir. We want to talk about the role of EMS in our community, sort of what is your mission and vision for what you all do.
Absolutely. Onslow County operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are the ambulance service, the 911 system for the county. The 911 system comprises our law enforcement, our fire department, first responders, and then the ambulance. And I'm the division head for the ambulance portion of the system.
Now, how many folks do you have on your team? Because I know it's a wide range and you have part-timers and full-timers, but talk about the folks that make this work.
So the system has 113 staff, paramedics and EMTs. We run 11 ambulances a day. We respond to a little over 20,000 calls per year.
Oh my gosh.
That comes out to anywhere between 40 and 60 911 calls per day.
Now, 20,000 calls, and you said 113? Do I have
113
that? 113.
Staff. 113.
113. Explain to our viewers who might not be aware, what is the difference when you say a paramedic versus an EMT?
So an EMT is the base level certification. That is a class that is 5 to 6 months in length. You can take the course at our local community college, and they teach you advanced first aid techniques, certain medications that you can give, and how to introduce different types of airway devices.
Okay.
A paramedic, on the other hand, is a program that's 18 to 24 months. Today, when you go to paramedic school, you usually come out with an associate's degree, and that particular program is the paramedics can do anything from advanced airways, give all different kinds of medications, advanced cardiology, and really what we're sitting in here today is a mobile ICU.
Right, exactly.
We have the ability to do all different kinds of things in order to help a patient. And so we joke that a paramedic's job description is master of all different kinds of things.
All right. You know, I'm looking at one first and foremost, how precise everything is placed. So this is, you know, you all need to work within seconds as you are treating your patients. So everything is within reach, everything is compartmentalized. And as you say, this is a mobile triage unit. You're getting everything as you drive to the hospital, as you prepare to get to the hospital, all of that is being done well in advance of them actually reaching the doors of the hospital.
For a long time, ambulance services were the transport mechanism.
Right.
Our primary job was to pick up a patient and get him to the hospital as soon as possible. But as medicine has evolved, so have the paramedics. And so when you call because you're having an asthma attack, the medics can take care of that. If you call because you're having a heart attack or a stroke, there is a lot of procedures, skills, medications that they can give you that they can start the process of reversing those kinds of things. And we do it all right here. And as you can tell, space is a premium. So
Right.
we look at things to be small, to be easily found, and everything in this ambulance is strategically placed.
Absolutely.
And it costs roughly about $250,000 per year to operate one ambulance. So it's expensive, but when you compare it to saving a life, there is no comparison.
Now, you mentioned 20,000 calls a year, and not all of those require going to the actual hospital, going to a medical facility. You all also do community paramedic work, and this is something that we've talked with your community paramedics in the past. Talk a little bit about how that has evolved under your leadership.
So we have 2 community paramedics, and it's a program that is still evolving in the United States. It's still a relatively new concept, but community paramedics are paramedics who have a lot of 911 experience, but also have a role like a social worker. Not all of our calls are heart attacks and strokes. Sometimes it's people who just can't navigate the healthcare system, mental health, substance abuse, some of the non-traditional type calls. And those community paramedics will go out, see those patients, and take them to the right destination. It's not always the emergency department that that people need to go. So we try to get them to the right place that they need to go the first time. And our community paramedics, we have 2. They are absolutely wonderful. They do a fantastic job for this community, and they have really made a huge impact in helping people navigate the system that don't need an emergency department but still need help.
Now, we were talking about how beautiful the weather is, but it is already really hot, Mr. Grovedahl, and you were sharing with me off camera that you've already had to deal with patients who have suffered from the heat. Let's really give a lot of attention to a conversation about protection from heat stroke and heat exhaustion, and we also want to differentiate between the two for our viewers.
Sure. So when we live in North Carolina, summer and heat and humidity, that's 3/4 of our year. And so it is warm already. It's gorgeous and beautiful outside, but the longer you spend outside, the more you need to be aware of the conditions in the surroundings. So know your own limitations, number one. Don't go out and overexert yourself for long periods of time. Take a lot of breaks. The hotter it gets, the more breaks you take, the better off you are. Find shade. Wear loose clothing, and make sure you drink plenty of fluids. And by fluids, what we're talking about are non-caffeinated drinks.
Right.
So stay away from those, from the sodas, from the coffee, the tea, from the
energy drink.
Energy drinks. Stay away from those. Drink lots of water.
Okay.
Gatorade, Powerade, those kinds of drinks are great, but for every one of those that you drink, you really need to drink you need to drink about 3 glasses of water.
So just plain old good water.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. And also we want to avoid alcohol as well, because that in fact raises our blood pressure and doesn't cool us at all.
Absolutely. It impairs our ability to really rationalize things, and so we may get hotter faster and not realize just because of the side effects of the alcohol. So if you are gonna be using alcohol, make sure you're tempering that with some water. Stay in the shade, and if you do start to feel yourself getting overheated, you're sweating quite a bit, take a few minutes and go inside and cool down.
Okay. And we talked about this idea of if you're feeling thirsty, it's really already too late. You're already dehydrated, correct?
Absolutely. Your body is an amazing mechanism, and so it will tell you what it needs. And so if you're thirsty, it says you're already volume depleted. Okay. So if you know you're going to be outside, if you're going to be at your kids' sporting event, if you're going to be at any one of our many festivals that we have in the spring and summer, hydrate the night before. Drink a lot of water, get your body prepped and ready, and then make sure you bring more water with you and drink as you go throughout the day.
Okay. Plenty of water, loose fitting clothing, get in the shade, take frequent breaks, and be aware of how you're feeling. One of the things we've dealt with, and we'll talk about this very briefly, but again, just as reminders, we've already seen some tragedies in eastern North Carolina with regard to water safety and drownings. What do you advise people? Is there pools, river, at the ocean, what should they remember, and then what are your paramedics and EMTs dealing with when they hear a cough or a water rescue?
So we've already had a few incidents here in the area with the rip currents, and so watch your news the night before. Our news is great about what the rip current threats are. Pay attention to the flags. If you are going to be out at the beach, make sure if it's a beach that has a lifeguard, that you're actually swimming and recreating in areas where you can be observed. And if you're not in a place that has lifeguards, then make sure there's always somebody watching.
Right.
So it's the old buddy system. So make sure that somebody's watching you, you watch somebody else, and just pay attention to the water. Stay in areas, if you're not a great swimmer, stay close to the shore. If you are a great swimmer, just pay attention to the current itself. If you feel yourself getting pulled out by the riptide, go with it. The biggest thing about a rip current is trying to fight it. You're going to exhaust all of your energy. Go with the current, let it take you out. Move parallel. As you're moving in, move parallel to the shore and start working your way little by little coming in. And it's going to take you a while. It's going to take you a lot further down the beach than what you thought, but it is the safest way to get yourself out of a current.
Very good. Now, the other thing is, you talked about making those 20,000 calls. One thing that I will tell you, I have just a few pet peeves, but in particular, I just sometimes I'm utterly flabbergasted at the number of people who really are not aware that we're supposed to pull over when we see an emergency vehicle. I know that you all deal with this. What do we need to remind the public drivers when they're out and about this summer?
So the best campaign I've ever seen is red light to the right. Okay. So if you see red lights, don't keep moving forward, but don't slam on your brakes. Gently apply your brakes. Move to the inside or to the outside, wherever it's safest. The ambulance is actually going to try to find the path of least resistance. So they're going to react to how traffic is reacting. So if you just stop in the middle of a lane, they're going to stop until they can figure out what it is that you're doing, and then they're going to make a wide pass around you. If you pull to the right, to the shoulder, they're going to move to the left. They're going to go opposite what everybody else is doing, and that's the way we're all trained to do it. The other part of that is if you see us on the side of the road, state law does require that you give us a wide path. You need to move to the opposite lane, slow down, and just be conscientious of people operating. There may be police officers, firemen, paramedics working in that environment, so they may come out from behind a vehicle. So you really need to slow down, be very, very patient, just be very attentive, and try not to focus on what you're seeing, focus on driving.
So as well, not, kind of as what is the old-timey phrase, rubbernecking. Don't create more of a problem.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Mr. Gravedahl, as we kind of close things out, what would you want our viewers to know about Onslow County EMS, about your paramedics and about your EMTs and what they're doing to keep us all safe, not just in the summertime, because you all work year-round and you don't take the summers off? What would you want them to know?
I want our community to know that our paramedics are some of the best around. They train all of the time. They are just incredible at what they do. And so have confidence and know when you call 911 that they will be there. They'll be there in a relatively short amount of time. We are all over the county. Depending on how the call is dispatched, we may go emergent, we may go non-emergent. It depends on the severity of the call as the dispatcher takes the information. But if you feel like you're having an emergency, don't hesitate calling 911. Make sure that you're in one place, listen to what the dispatcher has to tell you. And science clearly indicates that calling 911 and having a paramedic come to you, although it doesn't always feel like it, is much, much faster than putting yourself in a car and driving yourself to the hospital. Just the danger of driving emergent to the hospital is just way too much. So we can get there fast. We can initiate care very, very quickly. And if it is a true life threat emergency, the paramedics are very capable of saving life.
Well, recently we were at an event, and several of your 911 folks were recognized for their efforts as well in saving lives, because that saving lives begins at that phone call. We thank you for what you do every day for keeping us safe, not just in the summertime, but year-round. Thank you to you and your team, Mr. Grovedal, and thank you for inviting us in today.
And thank you for letting us show you our office.
Welcome back to Onslow County Today, and joining us now is Mr. Norman Bryson, Director of Onslow County Emergency Management. Mr. Bryson, thank you for inviting us in today.
Thank you, Lisa.
This is our annual Summer Safety Show, and it would not be our Summer Safety Show if we did not talk with you about preparedness for severe weather. I know many of us feel like we have not recovered from Florence yet, but hurricane season begins today, June 1. So please, we've got this backdrop that really you have put together for us that captures the scenes from Florence and the severity of it. And as a result of that, you've done some pretty unique things over the last several months. We want to talk about how we have revisited Florence, how that has perhaps changed our mindset about preparedness, and the advice that you would give to our citizens as they prepare for this year's hurricane season.
Well, Lisa, you're absolutely correct. We're still going through the recovery efforts of Hurricane Florence. Part of those efforts that we've been doing is working on after actions, going through revisiting things that we say, well, that was not right or quite right, and we think we can do it better, and how do we make that better? We've had a lot of community meetings over the last couple of months. We've met with a lot of our partners, the municipalities, the power companies, phone companies, hospitals, and all of the partners that we have that went through this storm with us, and we've talked about how can we make things better, what are we doing, and where can we go. Over the last couple months, back in March, we had 10 functional group meetings that talked about specific areas: decision-making, communications, public safety, public health, debris management, and we spent a lot of time with our partners talking about how do we make these areas better, what are some of the issues we have. We've produced a document. There is a Hurricane Florence recovery document. There's 65 recommendations that we have in that document that we're looking at. Some of those are things that we can do immediate. There's a few things with our communication systems that we can make immediate changes. There are some things that will take us a little time to make changes that we actually have scheduled out over until the beginning of next hurricane season before there will actually be improvements made. It has been a long process. There's a lot of things we've done with Florence. One of the big things that we want to talk about with the citizens in our future is the messaging of our hurricanes. For years, and when I mean years, I mean we're talking decades and centuries, the message around a hurricane has been the category. What is the wind strength of that? And that's all that category defines, is what is wind strength. With Florence, we had initially a storm that was predicted to be a Category 4. It was even predicted to make landfall into Onslow County as a Category 4. And we focused a lot on that overall wind strength. Over time, we got changes. A high-pressure system developed just north of us. It kept the system from actually coming on land as a Category 4. It pushed it down, but it caused the duration to be a very long time. It caused a lot of rainfall. Rainfall as into 40 inches of rain. So in the future, one of the things that we're going to deal with, right here is a perfect example. This is downtown Jacksonville. Of course, this is North Topsail, which we're seeing some of that water from. So when we start talking in our future to our citizens about the messaging of a storm, we're still going to talk about category, because we need to talk about what that wind strength is and what those winds may occur. But the other pieces that we're going to talk about is also going to be another piece is storm surge. Storm surge is driven by the winds. Now, while Florence never hit us directly, the eye of the storm hit us directly, it did approach us as a Category 4, dropped down, and came very close to us as a Category 1. Matter of fact, we had 19 hours of hurricane force winds here in Onslow County. But what happened is because that storm was a Category 4 coming across, it pushed a lot of water in front of it. The storm surge models that we got from this was more like a Category 3 storm. Even though it never quite got to us and it downgraded, it pushed a lot of water ahead of us. So we have to talk about that storm surge modeling. And like I said, in this situation, we got pretty much close to a Category 3 type of storm surge. The other thing we need to talk about is rain. Rain has absolutely no connection to the category or the wind strength whatsoever. We've seen some tremendous rainfall amounts in the last couple of years. Harvey, which hit Texas, dropped 50 inches of rain. Florence brought 40 inches of rain here to Onslow County. Now, I've done some research. We have actually had a storm, it was 100 years or so ago, that was before they even named storms, that actually dropped 56 inches of rain here in Onslow County. So we need to talk about those rainfall totals, because Florence, for us, rainfall was a huge, huge issue with the amount of flooding that it caused. We saw days and days of nonstop rain. The other thing that we want to talk about in our messaging to our citizens is duration.
Right.
In this storm, we had 54 hours of tropical storm force winds. And we saw, a house may have 2, 3, 4 shingles come off that house. But if you go back to that rainfall total of 40 inches, the house got pressure washed for days. And because those few shingles were gone, the water was able to come into the house. It penetrated. It caused a lot of the ceilings and sheetrocks to fail. So it caused a massive problem and a massive amount of debris because we had that amount of water for that much time. So duration is another piece. So in the future, the citizens will hear us talking about the category, the storm surge, the rainfall totals, and the durations.
Well, let's revisit each of those things just a little bit more. So when we think about that wind speed, we talked a lot about this in the midst of the storm in the preparation. When people hear that number, there is certainly that immediate reaction, which is, the winds are going to blow in and proverbial blow my house down.
Right.
And so there was a conversation about that. We didn't see those winds, but that's not to say that we won't next time.
That's correct. We can't just look at Florence and say this is, pardon the pun, the high water mark.
Right.
Or even the high wind mark. We have seen storms in our past. Hurricane Fran was much stronger winds when it came on board. We're talking about a Category 2, Category 3 storm when it made landfall somewhere on the Surf City, North Topsail line, Onslow County, Pender County line coming in. So we saw much, much stronger winds.
So wind first.
Wind first.
Then
the storm surge.
Storm surge. That we saw almost a day in advance. And I think people were a little bit surprised about that. Our neighbors over in Craven County saw that river rush up into their downtown streets long before Hurricane Florence arrived. Talk a little bit about that advance of that storm surge.
So yeah, you get that storm surge. And in this situation, like I said, for days and days, Florence was a Category 4, so it pushed a lot of storm surge up into it. The other difference with Florence is it came in a direction into the state of North Carolina that no other storm had approached before. And storm surge is gauged by the approach of the storm. We are very, very used to the storm coming in up close from Florida, sweeping up, coming up our coastline, which actually pushes the water almost parallel to our coastline. This time, as the storm came in across the Atlantic, it pushed the water straight into us. So the direction, as well as the wind velocity, will cause an effect on storm surge of how it pushes in and the effects that it causes. So you had a lot of water ahead of it. You had a different direction that we've never seen before, and a lot of that was pushing straight down those sounds. I remember talking with Roger Dale, who was the emergency manager of Lenoir County, and pretty much the Neuse River was dry. Right. I mean, that you could walk out and there was actual river bottom because the winds had pushed the river back up. So there's a lot of characteristics and a lot of different forces. And that's the other reason I tell people there's a reason for the names.
Right.
Florence, Fran, Floyd, they all begin with an F. But it's just like individuals. Everybody has a different characteristic, and every storm has a different characteristic. Because you've been through one hurricane does not mean you've been through all the types of effects that you will see from a hurricane. We all know Hazel hit in 1954. It was a Category 4 when it went in Wilmington and came up through this area. A lot of wind destruction. Most of the rains from Hazel was only around 12 to 18 inches, so nowhere what we saw with Florence. So each storm can be different in how it comes in and how you prepare for it. And that's the reason we, Onslow County, are going to talk in our messaging about the different areas of it.
Right.
We just can't focus on the category.
Just can't focus on the category. And then certainly you talk about duration. And that was the one thing, and you and I have worked many of these storms together for many years, that I don't think when we talk about preparation, I don't think people were prepared for that kind of duration, the long, really being in it for the long haul.
You're correct. And Lisa, for years, you and I have done a lot of programs talking about storm preparation. And we're going to bring that duration piece back in as well.
Yes.
We have always told people, be prepared for 3 to 5 days. My message is changing. It's now be prepared for at least 7 days to a week of having enough water, food, and provisions if you're going to stay. And in these situations, we know everyone wants to stay. People want to protect their homes. But life comes first. And there may become a point in time that you also have to consider the evacuation and look at leaving the area. Because we are a coastal area, we have a lot of river basins between the Cape Fear and the Neuse River basins. When people leave, it makes it hard for them to get back. Everyone wants to come back immediately after the storm, but if there's enough damage here and the roadways are not prepared, we may not have the provisions to be able to accommodate the 193,000 people that lives in the Onslow County area. So it's things that we have to take in effect. If you are going to stay, you have to think about your provisions, and I would move those provisions not to 3 to 5 days, but all the way out to 7, looking at a full week of food, water, anything that you may need during those time frames, flashlights, batteries, fuel for any kind of generators or things that you may have. The one thing I always remind everyone is also make sure you know what your insurance policy is.
Yes.
People need to go through their insurance policies and actually know what's in there and how they're covered. That's part of your recovery process.
You know, it's part of the recovery, and some of the things that we've heard is that people have been surprised. And that's not a surprise you want, is when you go to make your claim to find that things are not covered, and then that's on you. Which has been, for some of our citizens, a terrible situation to find themselves. You know, we talk about preparedness, and we talk about that it's not just about hurricanes, it's about year-wide severe weather, being prepared for that. There are lots of great sites, but you refer folks to a couple in particular that they need to look to for that perfect checklist of everything that they need.
Well, the main ones that we refer them to is first FEMA's website, which they have checklists out there that you can actually go through and see everything that you need to have for a all hazards preparation kit.
There you go.
Another place is Ready NC, which has a list out there as well, or you could even refer over to the American Red Cross's list as well. All these lists are out there. Most of them are very, very similar in nature. However, I will go back and say, even if they're not saying go out to a week, I'm saying Norman's list says be prepared for a week.
Norman's list, make it a week. You know, the other thing is we need to be able to customize those lists, because each family, each home situation is different as well. So really look at those lists and then customize it to your own needs.
Well, yes, I mean, everyone has there's medical needs. People have to make sure they got preparation for any medical needs or medications they have on hand. Then there's the pets. You know, have you got everything to be able to take care of your pet and during that same time frame? Now, you know, the other thing that I do want to encourage people is to kind of know where you are in Onslow County.
Yes.
The way the general statutes in the state are written is down to the lowest level of government on the decision for evacuations. So in these situations, if you live within the city limits of Jacksonville, then that's where your evacuation orders will come from. If you live in the unincorporated area, which means outside of any limits of a municipality, then your orders would come from the Onslow County Board of Commissioners if there's a form of evacuation. A lot of people don't understand when we do our messaging of what's the difference between incorporated or unincorporated. And that unincorporated means that you don't live within those municipal districts. We have 5, 6 municipalities here in Onslow County. town of Richlands, Holly Ridge, Swansboro, North Topsail, Jacksonville, and a very, very, very small portion of Surf City resides in Onslow County. So if you live within those municipal districts, then that's where your evacuation orders come from. The other thing people don't need to get confused with is the overall zip codes that go along with that. You can have people who are in an unincorporated area that share a zip code with people who are within a municipal district. So it's one of those things you need to know where you're located and who is providing those orders for you.
Well, you know, being prepared isn't just putting together your kit. It's having that knowledge, it's having that information. And one of the things that we also do here in Onslow County is register people to receive information from us as part of their preparation. Tell us what we need to do so that the county can notify you about impending situations.
So if we have people that are medically fragile, that need assistance during a storm, we have a registry. They can call here to Onslow County Department of Emergency Services at 910-347-4270, and they can register with us and get their names put on a list if they have any medical issues and may need assistance during the time of a storm. If we have a storm coming, we can also use that list to do a callback to see where people are, what are they going to do. Now, when the storm is actually coming, we stand up our Citizens Phone Bank. And people can call into our Citizens Phone Bank, which you're one of our managers of, and be able to get information to what are the evacuation routes, if any, where are my closest shelters, what shelters take pets, which one is there is for medically fragile, and any other kind of needs that citizens may have. And then there's the post-storm for our Citizens Phone Bank, where they need assistance to call in, and then we'll be able to get assistance for them. So there's a lot of different pieces to it. But there again, the first piece is if we have people, like I said, that are in what they consider the medical fragile community, and they would like to go ahead and register, then they can call here at my office. Again, that number is 910-347-4270.
Okay, so register if you're medically fragile or need special assistance in the event of a storm. Certainly, we're going to stand up our Citizens Phone Bank oftentimes before, during, and after a storm.
Correct.
And also, we have Alert Onslow here in the county as well, so that you can receive notifications from us, either text, email, or an actual call, correct?
Yes, and we have the Alert Onslow program, which we will use to send out emergency notifications. And we can do it not just on a countywide as a whole, we can do it by smaller geographical areas, depending on the type of the disaster or event that we're dealing with. There's two ways to register for that. One, you can go to the Onslow County website, and it will walk you through how to register your cell phone or an email address to receive alerts. The second way is, again, you can call back to our office at 910-347-4270 and be able to also, our office assistant Elise or Miss Leanne Harris will be able to help them with their registering onto the Alert Onslow.
Well, we've talked a lot about preparedness, and we've talked a lot about lessons learned, but there were a lot of things done really right from this office during Hurricane Florence and the team of folks that you work with. We're going to take a short break, make our way through your building, and visit with some folks who made a huge difference, not only during the storm, but every day in the lives of Onslow County as we visit your E911 center. Before we make our departure, though, please remind our viewers one more time how they need to be prepared and how they can learn more.
Well, first and foremost is go to a website such as FEMA.com or NC Ready or the American Red Cross website and get information from making a all hazards disaster supply kit and also how you make a disaster plan for your own home. The other side of that, if you are special assistance or you are medically fragile and you need to register with Onslow County, call at 910-347-4270, and you can use that exact same number to register with the Alert Onslow. Again, that number is 910-347-4270. We'll be glad to help people out with that. As you look around the United States, there are three areas that are most prone for having a hurricane come within 50 nautical miles, and those are New Orleans, which sees it about every 7 years. Mm-hmm. Then there is the very tip end of Florida around Miami, which is every 6 to 7 years. And then there's the entire coast of North Carolina, which is every 5 to 7 years. So if you're living in eastern North Carolina, you're in the highest prone area for seeing a hurricane on a more frequent. So you have to take time to be able to make sure you're prepared for it. One thing, and a lot of people wish I would quit saying it, but you know, We had Hurricane Hazel. We mentioned it a while ago. There's been 4 Category 4s in the state of North Carolina in 250 years. It's only a matter of time before we actually get another one. And I hate to say that, but I can't put a finger on the map of when it may happen, but the eventuality is it probably will happen, and we need to make sure we're prepared for it.
Thank you, sir, so much for your time and for those words of wisdom that we all need to heed.
Thank you, Lisa.
Welcome back to Onslow County Today. We're still with Mr. Norman Bryson, Director of Onslow County Emergency Management. Mr. Bryson, you're taking us into the 911 Center. We're going to be mindful of a couple of things so that as our viewers watch, we're going to keep our voices a little lower than we normally would for an interview, but we're also going to be mindful of the dispatchers at work. These are folks who begin the life-saving process. We talked about that with Mr. Grovedal, and recently several of your dispatchers were recognized for their efforts. So we want to go inside, take a look around, and see the complexity. This is the behind the scenes that happens as we're saving lives here in Onslow County.
Yes, and Lisa, one thing we must remember is this is part of government that never sleeps. 911 Center is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. We don't shut it down. We don't go, we just don't close up shop for any reason and go home with it. So this is part of that government that's always there and always being provided.
Very good. Lead the way, sir. So Norman, one of the things that we first make notice of is that each dispatcher has sort of an area of specialization at each table. So tell us a little bit about each of the setups and what these dispatchers do on a daily basis, but also what they do to prepare for this role in our community.
Well, Lisa, let's first start out with that in the Onslow County E911 Center, we receive anywhere from 190 to 210,000 phone calls a year into this center. And then from that, we dispatch out about 136,000 times in a year, ambulance, fire truck, or law enforcement officer from here. So this room stays fairly busy. If you look at a chart, overall chart, our highest time for call volume is 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Our lowest time is 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So we go through these dips and swings. Now, as we have in here, the first thing we have in this far back station is our call takers. So when someone dials 911, these ladies will pick up the phone. They will start asking what is the nature of your emergency, what is your location. We always try to make sure we're verifying what your location is, because while we do have the ability to receive the phase 2 phone information saying what your location is, sometimes coming through a computer system, it's not always right.
Right.
And not everybody has a phase 2 phone. Some people still have a phase 1 phone that does not provide location. So we have to work off verification first, knowing what the location is.
You're doing kind of an audio triage here. These are steps that are vital to getting folks help in the most timely fashion.
And saying an audio triage is so correct, because when we're getting that information, we have to make sure, because we have multiple calls coming in at a time of the day, we have to make sure that if we have an individual in Hubert who's having a heart attack, or we have another lady at the same time that may have a broken leg over in the Richlands community, we have to define that priority. The heart attack is the higher priority. We need to make sure we got the ambulance moving to that one first. It's not that we don't care about the lady who might have the broken leg, but like I said, we have to deal with priority first. We only have so many ambulances and law enforcement as well as fire trucks out at any one time that we can be able to provide for. So we have to define that. And the other thing about that priority is what is the level. As the Director of Emergency Services, I'm also, County EMS falls underneath me as well. We have more traffic accidents with our ambulances with people hitting them while the red lights and sirens are going. So if we can find out it's a non-emergent call and can send that ambulance at normal speeds, obeying the normal traffic patterns, not having to worry about the red lights and stuff, then it is safer for our crews. So that are some of the things we also have to take care of in our priorities. That's the reason we ask so many questions, and that's what these ladies are trained for. Our dispatchers are trained in emergency medical dispatching, emergency police dispatching, and emergency fire. They also have the ability to almost be that over-the-phone kind of telemedicine, because they can tell the public how to help deliver a baby, provide the Heimlich maneuver, or even do CPR. And because of that, we've had many successes. In some years, we've actually had the 911 center has delivered more babies than our paramedics did in the field.
That's amazing.
So, you know, being able to provide that information and push that information out, it's a great upfront help to our citizens. And like I said, so first it comes in, our call takers will take the information and they will start processing it. Now, we don't wait through all those questions before we set off the ambulance or the law enforcement. As soon as we know where that call is located, what the nature of the basic information we're sending, whether it's fire, EMS, or law enforcement, then we're starting to go ahead and do a pre-dispatch, get the unit rolling. As then we find additional information out, then we'll provide that additional information out to that ambulance. And around the room, you can see over here, we have our EMS and dispatching. We have the fire dispatcher over here. Over in this section, we have the Onslow County Sheriff's Office and the municipal police departments. We dispatch for 4 of our municipal police departments. We don't do for the City of Jacksonville Police and Fire. However, we do have connectivity to the City of Jacksonville's 911 Center. We have an interactive map with information that we can see what calls are going on with the city as well. And something that we actually only started doing in the last few years is actually dispatching for our animal control.
There you go.
So we have a telecommunicator that's also working with them as well. Now, if our call takers get busy, then the phones will roll over and we can have one of our other dispatchers, maybe they're not that busy at a point in time, will help answer that phone call.
Okay.
It is not uncommon for us to have someone that we're having a day that we're so busy that that telecommunicator who is on the phone with you may also be running another call providing information to units responding in the field. So that's not an uncommon factor for us. They have to be able to multitask.
Multitask and also be that calm for someone who is at perhaps the most frightening situation that they've ever faced in their lives.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing, if I could ever relate to the citizens the most. If, as quickly as you can get information to us, we can get units rolling to you. Just screaming over the phone doesn't get you help. We've got to actually get some good information. We're coming. We've just got to get good information from you. Now, something else that we do now that's developed over the last few years is we actually receive text to 911. We work that through 4 of our main carriers, which is US Cellular, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile as our 4 that we can deal with. The laws that deal with taking 911 calls versus the text to call is not quite the same. So we have to work with each individual carrier on being able to make sure that we can do the text to 911. But we do have that ability here. We are with our 4 major carriers in the community. So we're able to take that. We also can have the ability to take calls from people who are deaf and hard of hearing that may have special machines in their home to be able to communicate the information back and through. So we're able to do that as well. Here we dispatch for about 42 different agencies.
Wow.
So like I said, we have peaks of high and low call volume, but it stays fairly busy.
Consistent. The other thing, and I've had the great privilege of visiting your E911 center in the past, it's an incredibly stressful job, but I also see some familiar faces that have been here a really long time. This takes a great commitment to community.
It does, and that's one of the things we have to do is a lot of people don't wake up one morning and say, my life goal is to be a telecommunicator. You can go to our local community college and you can get a certification or degree to be a firefighter, to be law enforcement, or to be in emergency medicine. But you can't get that for telecommunications. We have our own trainer on site. It generally takes us about 6 months to train someone up. So it takes time for us to get someone and be able to release them to let them be on the radio or the phone by themselves. We do have several long-term people, who's on the phone right now, Miss Stephanie Allen back here, who's our supervisor on this shift. She's been with us for quite a while. I know she's relayed to me many times she wants to retire from here. So
that's a commitment.
That's a commitment.
That's a commitment. So they've made a commitment And the county has made a commitment in investing in that education, in that training, and then continuing education, and then in the well-being of these folks. Well, Mr. Bryson, I thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for inviting us in, and thank you for all that you do to keep us safe here in Onslow County.
Lisa, thank you, and I appreciate y'all coming in. I also appreciate giving this opportunity to talk to y'all about this. This is one of those hidden things that we don't get to talk much about.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Onslow County today, and you can see we have a beautiful day here at Onslow County's Public Beach Access number 2, and joining me now is Janice Steele, Director of Onslow County Park and Recreation. Janice, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
I know it's a tough day at work when you get to come.
It's a rough day.
You know, we are completely blessed to have this in our own backyard, front yard, but to have this beautiful ocean and this beautiful beach. We wanted to visit with you today because there are several things we want to address. One, we want to talk about kind of the status of all the public beach accesses. We all know after Florence, it was a great deal of destruction, a lot of damage done to some of your sites, although this one looks pretty good and it's already pretty populated. But we want to talk about the status of those public beach accesses. We also know you have a big schedule going on this summer, and we want to talk about some things that are coming up. And then we'll talk a little bit about sort of what you're looking at for 2019-2020 for the coming fiscal year. Okay. So the first thing we want to talk a little bit about is the status. We're at PBA number 2, so tell folks a little bit, orient them where we are today.
Public beach access number 2. As you come down to North Topsail Beach and cross over the bridge, you will turn right or south towards Surf City.
Okay.
About 6 or 7 miles down the road, it's at 2950 Island Drive. And the beach access on the left, on the ocean side, we have the beach house is open. It is not completely accessible at this time due to damages from Florence, but we have the steps open so people can access the beach. Concessions will be open starting this weekend, and the bathrooms are open.
Okay, so we'll be open on the weekend, so all of beginning Memorial Day you all opened, and it's going to be open rest of the summer till what time? How long do your concessions usually? How long does that contract?
Through the end of September.
End of September. Okay. So from Memorial Day, you guys have opened up, and then it's going to be running all the way through the summer.
Yes, ma'am. And right across the street on the sound side, we also have kayak, canoe, and stand-up paddleboard rentals and additional parking. So if someone would like to come out and try out a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard, they could do that right across the street.
All right. Now, we did talk about already the beaches are filling up, which is awesome to see. People are enjoying it. But this spring, you know, we've had some really scary situations up and down the coast here in North Carolina. Right. And what we want to point out is you all do have a lot of amenities here. This is not a lifeguarded beach. So we want to give a few just basic safety guidance. We're going to be talking with some folks from EMS as well about that. So can you give us just some fundamental rules that you all have?
Yes, the first thing, obviously, you always want to start the day with sunscreen and apply it liberally throughout the day because it does go away. Protect your sun. The rays are quite bright. Wear a hat if you can and sunglasses. That will protect your skin and your face and your eyes. Always hydrate. Bring a couple jugs of water. Make sure that you're drinking those throughout the day. But most importantly, if you're planning to swim, make sure you're swimming with a buddy. Make sure that you're staying close to each other and that you know where each other is at all given points in time. Check the surf before you come down to the beach and make sure that there aren't some warnings about just about not getting in the water or things like that. And heed those warnings.
Heed those warnings.
Don't go in if you shouldn't. And if you have a small child that's in the water, I would not be more than an arm's length away from them because they can get pulled down and under very, very quickly. So make sure that you're always with your children and swimming with a buddy.
You know, one of the things that folks who might, have grown up at the ocean, I grew up my entire life, 53 years I've been right here at this beach.
Yes, ma'am.
But what I know most is that this shoreline changes. And even if I'm familiar and comfortable with the shoreline, with that underfoot
Yes.
changes constantly.
Yes, ma'am.
When we're thinking about that changing shoreline, we know that we've got kind of tides that come and go. And one of the things I've seen a lot about recently is that folks, you know, when my girls were little, everybody likes to build a sandcastle, everybody likes to dig as deep as they can. But talk to us about the importance of filling those holes in because of the hazards that creates when the tide comes in and then it goes back out. People might not be familiar with the fact that there are great big holes
That
there.
can cause sinkholes, correct. And the other thing I want to mention is not to spend any time on the dunes.
Even more important,
not
yeah.
walking on the dunes, because those are there to protect the buildings, to protect the land and the beaches. So there are fines for playing on the dunes, but I would just say please don't let your children play on the dunes and don't cross the dunes.
Yep. So
Fill up any holes. Don't leave trash on the beach.
respect her,
Yeah, leave the beach as you find it.
and maybe even better.
And even better, yep.
Maybe even better. So we're down here enjoying the beach, but you all are not just at the beach. You've got great park sites and facilities for folks to enjoy this summer. Tell us a little bit about what you've got going on this summer in terms of programming.
Well, the biggest upcoming program that we have is on June 8th. We have a fishing derby, and it's in conjunction with Jacksonville Parks and Rec and the Public Health Department and at Onslow County. So we're super excited about that. And it is at the Jacksonville Training Academy range. It's from 9 to noon. Bring a fishing pole. Everything's free. We'll have prizes. We'll have food. We'll have fishing poles for those that don't have them, and it is catch and release. So please come on out for that.
You know, I had a chance. I was there last spring with you, or last spring with you all, and it didn't matter if the fish was this big or this big. Everybody was excited.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It was a lot of fun. So, and I know you guys, you're full, and you've got summer camp going all summer long.
We start summer camp on June 17th, and it runs through for the next 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
And we have
goes.
5 different camps in 5 different schools. Thank you to the school district for being a good partner.
Absolutely.
And allowing us to use their facilities. But it is full for the summer. So
that's awesome.
That is awesome. So we're excited about camp starting.
Good fun for your kiddos.
Absolutely.
And of course, you know, the big thing next month, July 4th, Freedom Festival. Tell us what you've got on plans, because I know that a lot of our viewers are aware that the base, Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, has canceled their events for this year, but lots of options, including Freedom Festival.
Well, we're super excited this year. We have, we do it every year, and it's like you said, it's our biggest event, but we open the gates at 2 p.m. And our gates are open our events are open from 2 to 9 p.m. and then we have fireworks after dark, right around 9 p.m. But we have 2 stages for music. Our main sound stage is hosting Brian Mayer, who is has some songs released, local country music star. And then also the North Tower Band will follow him and play up until 9 o'clock when the fireworks go off. And we do have a side stage. We will also have children's rides. We will have pony rides in the petting zoo like we usually do. And we'll have some amusement rides, games, and throughout the day. And so bring a picnic out, bring some chairs. We have plenty of parking. We'll be parking up and down Onslow Pines. Onslow Pines Road will close off about 7 p.m. And for those that weren't able to park close, we have shuttles available from the Harley-Davidson and the local lots. There's a grass church lot down in that area as well. So we will provide shuttles in, and we plan for about 20,000 people.
Wow.
So, you know, hopefully we have enough help. We are still looking for volunteers, so if anybody would like to come out and help us with that day, please call the Parks and Rec District or office, and we will put you to work.
Well, that brings us to our final thing, which is how to find out more. How do we reach you, and what do we need to do?
To reach us, you call the Onslow County Parks and Recreation Office. The phone number is 347-5332. You can check us out on the website, the Onslow County government website. Look for the Parks and Recreation Department, or look us up on Facebook under Onslow County Parks and Recreation. And the other really cool thing to be looking for is July is National Rec and Park Association Parks Month. And so we're going to be instituting a contest of sorts where we'll put out a calendar and ask you to come visit all of our parks, our events, and we'll be looking for some pictures, and we'll be entering you in a raffle. So look for that information to come out next month.
Well, we're going to definitely revisit you next month and make sure that we help you celebrate that month and encourage people to get out to all the parks, to visit the PBAs that are open and ready for them. And of course, reminders, sunscreen, be mindful of the currents in the ocean, always safety, watch your kiddos, hydrate, and have a really fun and happy summer.
Yeah, please come join us and stay safe.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Onslow County today, and we've moved down the boardwalk just a little bit here to join David Washington, Park Superintendent with Onslow County Park and Recreation. Mr. Washington, it is always good to visit with you.
Thank you.
So we're here especially to talk with you about the condition of our public beach accesses. We know that there was a lot of damage done to them after Hurricane Florence. Some have reopened, some have not, and we'll be going through some long-term restoration, if you will. So we're at PBA number 2, which is sort of centered on the island. Tell us a little bit about the conditions. What are we finding?
At public access number 2 here, what you're locating here is we have steps running down from the showers to the beach. We made it accessible. Our staff worked very diligently to get it done. But you notice where this sign is located, this is our handicap ramp, which is currently out of service.
Okay.
And it's going to be under contract to be repaired. Our contract is going to pre-bid is going to be next Tuesday, the 28th, to start the project, which it won't be at this location, but we'll eventually get here. But it'll be at access number 4 first, but then part of the project is 2, which encompasses handicap ramp as far as number 1 also.
So, so folks need to know, so public beach access number 4 is the big access that's right off of, as we turn left on New River Inlet Road, right? That's your big one. That's the other one that's comparable to this one in size.
That's correct.
And it really did sustain a significant amount of damage, I understand.
Yes, it did. Both stairwells, staircases, and ramps, handicap ramp, because that was handicap accessible as this site was. We lost the ramp and we lost our staircase going down to the beach on the left side of the building.
Okay. How about your smaller walkovers? What about them? Are any of them back open yet?
At beach crossovers, I'll start at access number 1, which is a little bit further down from access 4. Access 1, we're currently there. Our staff is actually putting it together, so it will be open for this Memorial Day weekend for patrons to utilize. The park itself has been open. The upstairs restrooms at access 1 are off limits right now because the staircase is rather hazardous and shaky, and we don't want to put patrons in any harm going up the steps. And that is part of that contract also. But that downstairs facility is open for the restrooms. It's handicap accessible, and it's both for men and women if you actually go in there to utilize that facility.
Okay.
Now coming back this way, obviously we just mentioned access 4 is in repair. We started 2nd Avenue out of all our crossovers, which encompasses over to Reed Street. 2nd Avenue is under repair. We have got a purchase order in for it to get it repaired. 5th would be our next crossover. That one is under repair. We always have a materials acquisition list for that. Actually, when you go from there, from actually 5th, you have 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th. Well, excuse me, let me stop back. We'll stop at 13th. 13th is in disrepair also.
Okay.
That's one of the crossovers that we have to put back in service. But the other ones I mentioned are serviceable. 7th through 11th. And once you get past that, 18th, 21st, 23rd, they're operational to the public.
Very good.
We go past here. Obviously, we have this site where we're located, which we have a crossover on the south end there. That's functional that patrons can go across from the parking lot. Our next 3 crossovers, which would be Thompson, that is under contract, and then we have Chestnut. Chestnut Street is open, and then the last one would be Reed Street. Reed Street is under contract also.
Under contract also.
And that would all our 13 crossovers that we're covered, because currently right now we probably out of the 13 we have at least there's 5 that are not open to the public.
5 that are not open. So
Yes.
in the process, working on those, trying to get those back. And like you said, your team came out here and got this one, worked really hard so that we'll have this one open, which is kind of center stage
Yes.
right now. David, the other thing is we want to remind people when they use these public beach accesses that they want to make sure that, you know, we're very fortunate to have these. We're very fortunate that we have free parking to our beaches, which some beaches in other counties don't have that available to them. But we also want them to realize that this is a real opportunity and that they need to take care of these beaches. Give us some of the rules for taking care of these public beach accesses and protecting our beaches.
Oh, one thing, we do have rules and regulations and guidelines that are posted at our sites. Bottles. We obviously try not to encourage drinking alcohol, because if you do, you probably need to stay hydrated if you are.
Right.
Your trash, we would like to pick it up, be police stewards of yourselves. You'll see right here we have a container for plastics.
Oh, the blue tube, which is a great idea.
We're encouraging that for recycling. Any kind of plastic materials can be put in there. And I think we're thinking about getting some butt containers put out here also for our smokers and stuff. But encouraging to make sure just to leave footprints and take all the trash with them.
Just leave footprints. That's awesome, Mr. Washington. So the last thing I want to talk with you a little bit is about the other parks. Certainly, Hurricane Florence did widespread destruction across the county. So how are the conditions at your other park sites as well as your kayak and canoe landings?
Other county park facilities have fared very, very well. I mean, we've got them back up fairly quickly. Have to give a lot of congratulations to our staff, because they put forth a lot of hours and hard work getting them done and back open to the public in a timely fashion. But all our park facilities, we did have some light damages where the lights were blown offline, but our utility entities, Jones Onslow in particular, they helped us out immensely getting our lights straight on our ball fields, and our county electricians, they helped us immensely getting the lights and everything working properly and functioning properly, so we could encouraged our patrons to get out and play baseball, softball, like this is that time of the year.
It's that time of the year. All right. Well, Mr. Washington, I just want to thank you. I know that you and I have done this a number of times. David, please share with our viewers, how long have you been with Onslow County?
I've been currently with Onslow County for 31 years. 31
years. Well, David, you have seen these storms come and go, and more importantly, you've seen how we can come back from them. So thank you for all your efforts, and we wish you a very happy and safe summer.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
As always, we want to thank you for visiting us here at Onslow County today. Thanks for coming to the beach with us. We also want to thank all of our guests. We want to thank Catherine Mamelli and Michael Singleton from the Onslow County Health Department and Onslow County Environmental Health. Certainly we want to thank our friends over at the Onslow County Emergency Operations Center, David Grovedahl and Director Norm Bryson. A special thank you to Larry Nobles for coming out and talking to us about traffic safety. Jennifer Montefort for talking to us about keeping our furry family members safe in the summertime. And finally, a big thank you to Janice Steele and David Washington for inviting us here to Public Beach Access number 2. Onslow County is a beautiful place to live. We have this gorgeous ocean, beautiful beaches, but we want everyone, visitors and residents alike, to remember to have a safe and happy summer. We'll see you next time on Onslow County Today.